Professor Lorix slammed his 3 tentacles on the desk, causing half the class to jolt upright from their various states of mental hibernation. His copper-toned skin flushed a vibrant purple with frustration. For the 7th time. Time dilation is not theoretical magic. It is a fundamental reality of physics that every spacefaring species encounters. He gestured wildly at the holographic display showing mathematical formulas that stretched across 3 dimensions. How can you build faster-than-light engines without understanding why they're necessary? The classroom of 34 students from 17 galactic species stared back with expressions ranging from confusion to outright despair. Well, those who had expressions. The gaseous flaxen students just pulsed anxiously in their containment bubbles. Professor Lorix, a tentative voice came from the back, perhaps another approach might help. Lorix swiveled his eye stalks toward the only human in class. Jamie Parker sat quietly, hands folded, not even using the neural interface like the other students. Just listening. How primitive. Yet there was something in those simple binocular eyes that suggested actual comprehension. Ah, Parker. Our Earth representative wishes to enlighten us with human wisdom. Lorix didn't try to hide the sarcasm dripping from his speech orifice. Please, proceed. Jamie cleared her throat. Well, humans have understood time dilation conceptually for generations, even before we proved it mathematically. Maybe practical demonstration would help? Nervous laughter rippled through the class. Senior student Drax, with his imposing exoskeleton and 6 brain lobes, snorted loudly. A demonstration? Without quantum manipulation equipment? Perhaps the human will wave her arms to simulate relativistic speeds? Lorix was about to dismiss the suggestion when a thought struck him. Why not challenge them? Nothing motivated students like public failure. Actually, he announced, tapping commands into the lecture console, Parker has given me an excellent idea. Your next assignment, create a working model demonstrating relativistic time dilation effects. Extra credit worth 20% of your final grade. Stunned silence fell across the room. But Professor, protested Nalia, the top Centaurian student, that's impossible without access to research-grade equipment. Is it? Then consider it a theoretical exercise. Lorix smiled with all 4 of his mouths. Due in 3 weeks. Class dismissed. As students filed out, Jamie approached the podium. Professor, quick question. Does the demonstration need to show actual dilation or just model the concept? Parker, if you can show actual measurable time dilation with university resources, I'll personally nominate you for the Galactic Science Prize. Lorix waved dismissively. Now please leave. I have 15 more classes of disappointment to endure today. Jamie nodded thoughtfully. One more thing, any restrictions on materials? What? Lorix wasn't paying attention anymore, already preparing his next lecture. Can we use anything available on campus? Yes, yes. Whatever. Just nothing dangerous or illegal. He shooed the human away with a tentacle flick. As Jamie left, Lorix noticed an unusual expression on her face. Was that excitement? How odd. Humans were such strange creatures. Always getting enthusiastic about impossible things. 2 weeks crawled by. Professor Lorix had almost forgotten about his impossible assignment until Dean Poltrix cornered him in the faculty lounge. What exactly did you tell that human student? The dean's voice sounded like gravel in a blender, his crystalline face fracturing into patterns of annoyance. Parker? Nothing special. Why? Lorix sipped his nutrient solution, unconcerned. Because she's been terrorizing the maintenance staff. Rummaging through recycling units, dismantling obsolete equipment. 3 departments have filed complaints. Lorix nearly spat out his drink. She's what? Yesterday she convinced the cafeteria to give her their broken quantum stabilizer, said it was for your class project. That's Unexpected. On his way to afternoon lectures, Lorix spotted Jamie sitting cross-legged outside the physics building, surrounded by what could only be described as garbage. She was carefully extracting components from what looked like a discarded food synthesizer. "Parker. What in the 7 spiral arms are you doing?" Jamie looked up, grinning. "Oh, hello, Professor. Just salvaging some electromagnetic coils. The cafeteria was going to toss these, but the core units are still functional. You can't possibly think you'll create time dilation with trash. Not with any single piece, no. But combined with the right circuit architecture." She shrugged. "Humans have a saying, one person's trash is another person's temporal distortion device." "That's not the saying," Lorix muttered, walking away quickly before anyone associated him with this embarrassment. Later that week, during faculty dinner, Professor Brox from engineering cornered him. The insectoid professor's mandibles clicked anxiously. "Your human student requested after-hours lab access. I granted it because, honestly, I thought it would be amusing." "But Lorix." Brox's compound eyes glistened with concern. "My instruments detected unusual energy patterns last night. Nothing dangerous, but anomalous." "What kind of patterns?" "Brief moments where chronometric sensors showed inconsistencies. Like tiny bubbles of altered time flow." Lorix nearly choked on his food. "That's impossible." The next day, in class, Lorix noticed the alien students giving Jamie a wide berth. The human sat calmly taking notes with an archaic stylus and paper while everyone else used neural interfaces. Drax couldn't contain himself. "Professor, is it true Parker is building her project from garbage? My species evolved from waste processors, and even we find that primitive." Laughter erupted across the classroom. "At least I'm building something," Jamie replied without looking up. "How's your theoretical paper coming, Drax?" "A theoretical approach is the only logical solution," Nalia interjected. "My calculation models show the energy requirements alone make any physical demonstration impossible without thinking differently," Jamie finished, finally looking up with a smile. "That's the point." Lorix studied the human curiously. There was no sign of the embarrassment or anger he'd expect from a student being mocked by peers. Just quiet confidence. "Professor," Jamie asked suddenly, "would you be available to witness a preliminary test tomorrow evening? I believe I've achieved measurable results." The class fell silent, all eyes turning to Lorix. Yes," he heard himself say, curiosity overwhelming his better judgment. "But Parker, if this is a waste of my time, it won't be," Jamie promised, returning to her notes as whispers erupted around her. "I guarantee you've never seen anything like it." Presentation day arrived with unexpected fanfare. Word had spread through the university about the impossible assignment and the strange human who claimed to have solved it. The lecture hall was packed. Not just with students, but with faculty from multiple departments. Even Dean Poltrick sat in the front row, his crystalline features reflecting rainbow patterns onto the wall. "Quite the audience you've attracted," Professor Lorix muttered as he adjusted the evaluation console. "I hope this doesn't turn into a complete embarrassment." The presentations began predictably. Nalia presented an elegant mathematical proof explaining why physical demonstration was impossible without exotic materials. The Flaxen twins offered a beautiful simulation that showed time dilation effects in a virtual environment. Drax had created a theoretical paper proposing how a demonstration might work with equipment that wouldn't be invented for another century. All excellent work. All completely avoiding the actual assignment. And finally, Lorix announced, "Jamie Parker." The whispers stopped as the lecture hall doors slid open. Jamie entered pushing what looked like a repurposed food cart. On it sat a contraption that defied easy description. At its center was what appeared to be the casing from an outdated translator unit, surrounded by a spiral of copper wiring clearly salvaged from the engineering department's recycling. A modified food synthesizer power core hummed quietly beneath it all, and various components from at least a dozen different technologies had been haphazardly integrated into the device. "Is that a waste disposal unit?" someone whispered loudly. "Thank you for the opportunity to present today," Jamie began, seemingly oblivious to the skeptical stares. "What you see before you is a functional time dilation field generator." The laughter was immediate and widespread. Even Lorix couldn't suppress an amused trill from his secondary vocal sac. "Parker," he said gently, "perhaps you should explain your theoretical approach instead." "I'd rather demonstrate." Jamie pulled out a standard university chronometer and placed it next to an identical one on the cart. "These are synchronized to the nanosecond. I'll place one inside the field." She activated the device. The heap of junk began to hum and glow with a soft blue light. A shimmer formed in the air above it, like heat rising from desert sands. "Observe the chronometers." Silence fell across the room as the audience stared in disbelief. The chronometer inside the field was running measurably slower than its twin outside. Professor Brox rushed forward with a sensor array. This is actual time dilation. Not a visual trick. Not a manipulation of the display. The chronometer is experiencing a different time flow than the rest of this room." "Impossible," breathed Nalia, her 6 eyes blinking rapidly in sequence. "The effect is small," Jamie acknowledged, "only a few microseconds of difference per minute. But it's stable and reproducible." Dean Pultrix rose from his seat, face fractured with astonishment. "How?" "The power requirements alone should make this impossible without quantum manipulation technology." "Yes," Jamie agreed. "That's why I had to rethink the approach entirely." The device suddenly sparked, and the blue field collapsed. Jamie quickly shut it down. "Still some stability issues," she admitted with a shrug. "But the principle is sound." The lecture hall remained in stunned silence as Jamie calmly disconnected her equipment. Professor Lorix stared at the human student, all 4 of his mouths hanging open in disbelief. 3 days after the demonstration, Professor Lorix invited Jamie to his office. The room was cluttered with academic awards and exotic plants from his homeworld, but Jamie's attention was drawn to the disassembled pieces of her device laid carefully across his desk. "I've been studying your contraption," Lorix said, all 4 eyes focused intently on her. "I still don't understand how it works." Jamie smiled. "That's because you're looking for complexity. Your species approaches problems from the top down. Humans tend to work bottom up." "Explain." "Most advanced species develop time dilation theory mathematically, then try to build technology that matches the equations. Humans did it backwards. We understood time dilation intuitively through stories and thought experiments long before we had the math to explain it." Lorix's skin rippled with confusion. "Stories? What do ancient myths have to do with relativistic physics?" "Everything. For centuries, human authors wrote about time running differently for travelers moving at high speeds or in strong gravity fields. Our fiction explored these concepts generations before our science could confirm them. But the device? How does it function without quantum stabilizers?" Jamie pointed to different components. "I realized we don't need to create true relativistic speeds. Those food synthesizers use microscale gravity fields to arrange molecular structures. By reconfiguring them and linking them through the translator's neural network architecture, I created localized gravity distortions. The waste disposal unit's radiation shielding contained the effect." Lorix's tentacles twitched with excitement. "You created artificial gravity wells using food preparation equipment? Turns out making a sandwich and warping spacetime require similar principles at a fundamental level." Jamie grinned. "When you can't afford expensive equipment, you get creative." The next morning, Dean Pultrix summoned both Jamie and Lorix to his office. The crystalline administrator's face was fractured with so many patterns that Lorix couldn't read his mood. "The Galactic Science Academy has contacted us," the dean announced. They're fascinated by Ms. Parker's approach. They've offered funding for a research position to develop this technology further. That's wonderful, Lorix managed, genuinely pleased for his student. More importantly, the dean continued, they want to know if other humans might have similar unconventional approaches to long-standing problems. They're establishing a human intuitive physics initiative. Jamie looked embarrassed. We're not all brilliant, you know. I just happen to accomplish what 17 other species with vastly superior technology could not, Lorix finished. Never apologize for thinking differently, Parker. By the following semester, Professor Lorix had completely revamped his teaching methods. His lectures now began with human stories and analogies before progressing to complex equations. Enrollment doubled. Today, he told his newest class, we begin with an ancient human transportation device called a bicycle. This simple machine will teach us more about gyroscopic stability than any equation. In laboratories across the galaxy, frustrated alien scientists began studying human art, literature, and even children's toys, looking for insights into seemingly impossible problems. Time dilation was just the beginning. If a species that had barely left their solar system could approach physics so intuitively, what other solutions might humans discover by simply not knowing something couldn't be done? As for Jamie Parker, her junk time dilation device underwent refinement at the Academy. But she insisted that the original, held together with adhesive tape and improvised circuits, remain on display as a reminder that sometimes, the most primitive approach is exactly what advanced civilization needs.